Hi everyone, this is Pastor Suzette with day 51 of 90, Covenant Wealth and the Parable of Talents. Beloved, above all things, I want you to prosper and to live in health, even as your soul prospers. Let the Lord be magnified, who takes pleasure in your prosperity. And God can't break his covenant, and he will not take back a single word that he has said. Covenant Wealth and the Parable of 10 Talents. We're looking at some lessons to be learned from the Parable of the Talents today. So in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 to 30 from the New Living, it says, "Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags to another, and 1 bag to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags came forward with 5 more and said, 'Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I've earned 5 more.' The master was full of praise. 'Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I'll give you many more opportunities or responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.' The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, 'Master, you gave me 2 bags to invest, and I've earned 2 more.' The master said, 'Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I'll give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.' Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, 'Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant, gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I'd lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back.' But the master replied, 'You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it.' Then he ordered, 'Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" In Luke it says that we are to occupy until he comes. And here are some clear guidelines. Success is a product of our work and our knowledge. Work was a gift that God gave to Adam after he gave him the gift of life. We are to work, using our gifts and talents to glorify God, to expand his kingdom on earth, to fulfill our covenant wealth assignment, and serve people well. We need to expect to multiply. Be God dependent. Acknowledge that he provides everything that you need to do everything he's called you to do. Stay purpose led. Jesus is all you need. The master expected his servants to do what he had purposed them to do. He gave according to their ability. Passive Christianity is like the servant with 1 talent, not doing anything to bring heaven to earth, so to speak, ruled by his emotions and not by obedience to the master. God expects a return on investment. When I talk about covenant wealth, it's true that we all have different abilities. The master gave to each according to their individual abilities. Not everyone's going to be a millionaire. We all have differing abilities, gifts, wisdom, and stewardship levels. However, as we are obedient with what he's given to us, expect increase, multiplication, and promotion for more. It takes as much work for the 5-talent steward to make another 5 as it did for the 2-talent steward to make another 2. However, the reward was the same for both. The master doubled what they had been given. The 2 servants worked for the master and his purposes, but the 1-talent servant gave in to his own selfish purposes. Pray that the use of your gifts and talents would be maximized for the glory of God. The 1-talent servant was afraid and lazy, but the master called him wicked. We will be held accountable, and the lazy servant really wasted an opportunity. I think if he had at least tried to do what the master wanted, even if he'd failed, the master would have been pleased at the attempt. But he was ruled by fear. But God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. Father, I pray that you would teach us how to double what you give us, that we would be faithful servants and wise stewards. Father, I thank you that everything we need comes from you. You give us the gifts, the talents, the resources, the opportunities. Father, I pray that we would see every opportunity that you bring before us. I pray, Father, that we would become everything you want us to become, that we would do everything you want us to do, and have everything you want us to have. Father, thank you that Christ is being fully formed in us. Thank you that you're making us as great and as wealthy as you want us to be. Thank you for the gift of divine stewardship and wisdom. Thank you for supernatural debt cancellation and for financial financial increase. Thank you that we are wonderfully, eternally, beautifully, and blissfully blessed to be a blessing. Father, may we live always for your glory and for the good of people and find our fulfillment in living your purpose. Amen.